Mission is Cynthia Roberts, who I can see is here.
I put a hand out.
Oh, somebody will come down and collect that from you,
Excellent.
Cynthia.
Thank you.
Kia ora, Cynthia, welcome.
Kia ora, Mayor Leanne. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. I'm Cynthia Roberts, an ecologist, and a member of a little group of residents that adjoin Barnett Park. We call ourselves Regreening, Regenerating Barnett Park Te Awakura. So we're just a group of local residents who have come together to give some love and time to Barnett Park. And I've given you out that little brochure today because I just want a hands up of how many people know what I'm talking about when I say Barnett Park, who have been there and walked there. Because although it's this most magnificent park that starts at the sea and goes up to the summit, it has been closed to the public for the last 11 years. That is the walking track that goes up to the cave. And I'm a sort of fairly recent resident at that end of the Port Hills. I've been there for about 5 years. Previously lived at the other end of the Port Hills where I had wonderful access to Victoria Park, Sign of the Kiwi, Kennedy's Bush, all those beautiful walking bush tracks there. And as a botanist ecologist, I was devastated to find that that end of the Port Hills, it's absolutely a dearth of anywhere to walk in the bush. And the only one place that you could possibly go for a walk was actually closed to the public because of a rockfall hazard post-earthquake. And it's just a prime location to get off the bus, and you can actually even walk up on the eastern side all the way over to Littleton Harbour. So it is historically and culturally quite a significant pathway too. And so I think that it's timely that it's brought to the attention of the City Council that it actually needs some more funding and some more support. So my main message today is actually to protect what remains of our cultural and ecological biodiversity, because QE2 suggests that it's like $100,000 to just restore 1 hectare of grassland, whereas if you're restoring and protecting what little biodiversity remains, it's only a quarter of that. And one of the things that I've been documenting as I've been walking on the hills above where I now live at Redcliffs is the deterioration of what little biodiversity remains there. For instance, Greenwood Park has little patches of bush, but they're not fenced, they're not protected. And I watch the poor old sheep, of course, in the heat waves, crowding under those and compacting the roots and really stopping any regeneration that's possible. So, my plea today is really protect what remains of our biodiversity, particularly on these eastern-facing sides of the Port Hills, because it has been a neglected area, and it is quite a quick win for our biodiversity crisis, for our climate change work, and it is also, in health and well-being, a wonderful place for people to walk. So my specific request today is for support for opening up the whole of that loop track to Barnett Park. In this year's budget, there has been put some money to do the rock remediation on the eastern flanks going up to the cave, and that started a month ago. But the other side, the western flanks, where there is a much-loved caver's cave, that is still closed, and no line in your budget for rock remediation on that. And it is this whole area is home to gecko and other lizards, wonderful invertebrate biodiversity, and so on. It's a real win for our biodiversity. Our little group has been working hard to remove weeds, and we have had a small grant from the City Council Community Fund for helping us with that. But it sort of disappears in very quickly when we start employing people to do that removal. And what is the main issue in that park is both the bone seed, but the banana passion fruit totally smothering. And you see in that photo on that front page, there's Nick Head, who came out and did an ecological walk with us, and we noted and got a species list of all the species we found. But Nick Head totally endorses this is just such a win for the city to actually restore this area. So we're looking for, again, more funding for helping us with that weed removal. We got one day from the conservation volunteers. But it's an example of that outsourcing that goes on in the City Council. And I really think that we need more rangers because they're so thinly spread, and the ecologists are very thinly spread. And so more rangers would actually make all the difference rather than outsourcing, as we're doing all the time, to do things like that. And getting behind volunteers like the Barnett Park Group are, of course, a great win. And I think the final thing I want to mention is that we are really very keen on renaturalising the stream at the bottom of Barnett Park. As you can see in one of those photos, there is actually quite a significant waterfall when it rains, and a lot of that sediment comes down still off those hills and is channeled, flooding often amongst Monks Bay residents, I should say, and really killing the benthic communities in that estuary. And again, that estuary we know is an international flyways, and by killing those benthic communities that the birds and the fish need to live, we're not doing a service for our estuary either. So it would be a real win to renaturalise that stream, create a wetland, and potentially have kakatea growing there, like at Hayes Reserve at Pigeon Bay, and that is an example of a coastal podocarp forest. And lastly, I would just want to thank you all for what you're doing as councillors. You're doing a magnificent job, and I know it's hard work, but you've done some great wins, and I just love the cycleways and the coastal pathway. And this Mother's Day, it was full to overflowing with people, and so people are now choosing to get out and walk, and that's how they share their family time rather than sitting inside. It feels a healthier win-win. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And I just love your self-description as a roaming ecologist. Does anyone have any questions for Cynthia? Sarah, and then Andrew.
Thanks so much, Cynthia, and for all the work that's happening in this space. Just a quick question though. The ask for the $100,000 to enable the rockfall to be remediated, is that a figure that you've had from staff, or one that's sort of in line with the figure for the other side?
Well, that's our best guesstimate, having talked to the park rangers, having talked to some of the engineers that are associated with the park. That's a guess of what it would take. And having done some remediation on the eastern side, there will be a better idea of what that will cost.
Andrew, sorry, we're running out of time.
Sarah asked exactly the question I was going to ask, so we're good.
Well, it was on the back of my mind too, so that's very good. Thank you very much for your submission this morning.
Kia ora.
Thank
you.
The next submission is Sarah. Now I'm going to struggle with